All right. Well, we have our video today about isn't life just the weirdest thing sometimes? How sometimes a rapper can come out of absolutely nowhere and just fuck his whole entire life up. And this is not an isolated event. This is not something that randomly happens and is a once in a lifetime thing. This happens all across the spectrum. It's fucking happened like a million times. Rich, successful, can get any woman he wants, rapper, living it up, and he just fucks his whole life up, either because crime or some other stupid thing. And I'm sure there's even more situations where they just have all this money and they fucking go into debt because they lose it all. So the latest one, the biggest news was Silentio or whatever. This kid from Atlanta who became insanely famous off probably one of the stupidest songs ever known to man. It's absolutely cringe bullshit that shouldn't even have existed in the first place. I'm not going to play it because obviously it's probably copyrighted to balls. But, like, oh man, I watched it just out of morbid curiosity, and oh Jesus, this is the absolute lowest diatribe mumble jumbo bullshit you've ever heard in the history of words, and it's got a billion views. And I think that most people is exactly the same as me, just morbid curiosity about stupidity. It's like, how dumb can the human race become? And that's Silentio. Now, what now is in totally fucked his everything up because he was just sentenced to 30 years in prison for killing his cousin. Jesus. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? So, I mean, he's going to be spending the next 30 years in a fucking cold, dark jail cell somewhere instead of running around, flaunting his wealth and slapping the asses of hip hop women. So, yeah, I mean, let's break down the situation because I looked into it out of curiosity because this kid basically is like he's like 27. He kind of rose to prominence obviously after his sons. It's an interesting story. It really is an interesting story, and I was curious about it. So let's look through it here. He like he started. He was like 17, 10 years ago, 17 years old. Kind of growing up in an absolute fucking ghetto, complete complete and utter you know same story we've heard millions of times. Living in the ghetto, grows up, gets the biggest break of fame imaginable. imaginable. You know, so I mean, he was only born in 1998. So he's really really young, and he was in a fucking ghetto hood situation, and he just made the break of his lifetime in June 2000s. Silentio made, he's on Vine, dance craze. He was a viral success. He just started this like dancing, rap kind of deal that we've seen millions of times. They just kind of stick to their musical thoughts of, becoming this big star. And sure enough, it just like became this like incredible viral sensation. And I'd say that most people just kind of gotten it's just a weird song. You just have to listen to it. I'm not gonna play it, but yeah, you gotta watch Whip Nene. It's just so like, how do people enjoy this? It's like what is going through their head? And maybe that's the reason it became so fun. It's because it's just so weird. So I mean, this kid rose to ridiculous fame. I mean, like insane fame. I mean, he was instantly the most famous person he could ever imagined. And then he's like So he's like 17, 18. Imagine getting all the money in the world, anything you want, all these riches, and sure as hell enough, he fucked it all up in a very short time, I will say. In a extraordinarily short time, I would say he just fucked everything up. Yeah, so I mean, like, look at this. Look at this. Let's see what he did here. Let's see what he did with all his money. He just sit back, just put it in the bank, like earn some interest off of it. No, he didn't do that, of course. He could have been set for life, literally, with the probably with the revenue off of this song alone. He probably could have done that. But yeah, so I mean, let's look at the crime because it happened relatively short, like 6 years. But it started pretty even earlier because look at this. So he's got like personal life, legal innocent murder charge. On August 2020, Silentó was arrested in Atlanta. He just started going crazy. No drugs, maybe, probably, somewhat had something to do with this, I would say, and the crazy women and the crazy people and the crazy shit that the gangsters with the money and the fucking like, I don't know. It's just like what they do, kind of sometimes. So so like he goes on this kind of crazy thing. August 2020. This is 5 years, 4 years, 4 to 5 years after he became ungodly famous. That he only got to live that like period of time in his life where he was maybe happy. It's like I don't know. Like could it be? Is he happy? So yeah, anyway, so he enters a room, random house, hatchet, searching for his girlfriend. Women, men, I'll tell you, like women can fucking, you know, he could probably have gotten more than just this woman. So he swung at two people. He got arrested, disarmed. L.A. police, so 2 counts of assault. So he's already in jail less than 10 years or less than 5 years after he became the richest, most famous person that he could have imagined, and probably just had millions in the bank. So he was then arrested for prohibited space, driving on roadways, going crazy, doing all this shit. But really, 6 years after his fame, less than 6 years after he became unimaginably famous and rich, Senator's 34-year-old cousin was found bleeding profusely. He gunshots to the head and face, dying, and then he died. Silentó was charged in connection. Now he probably, the way I read into it is he looked almost like he tried to get away with it. So he looked like he was trying to get away, and he was like, bullet casings were found that match his, the weapon he used, and like the police figured it out, basically. But he was, of course, probably thought he was so smart he got away with it all, and like there was like camera footage that caught him and stuff. So yeah, I mean he's been in jails since 2021 ish. Um, yeah, and then come 4 years later. Oh no, I mean, maybe he was out on bail, but anyways, he was caught, and for the last 4 years or whatever, he had been doing that. So I mean, and then he's sentenced to 30 years, pleading mentally ill to a lesser metropolitan church. So 30 years in jail. He might get out earlier, depending on what happens, but I mean, this guy just fucked his entire life up. Now let's look at this. Net worth is, it went down obviously because a lot of people were saying that he kind of like this was his magnum opus and he had never reached those levels of fame since, and that's very, very possible. But I mean, even if he's not getting in a prison for next 10 years minimum, 15 years minimum. They're not going to just let him out after he murdered someone and admitted to it. And even if he's going to be on a very tight leash, I would say. So, yeah, his whole MO will be this I'm in prison for life rapper kind of thing. Just a little kid who just kind of completely fucked his life up, of course. And decided it would be a good idea to do that. And it's a morbid reality story because you gotta think that he's probably regretting some things. It's right now he's probably regretting this. It's an interesting story. It is, yeah. Yeah, and like things like family member told police had picked up Rooks and White had GPS and cameras on them, and confessed about 10 days later, and ballistics that. So yeah, I mean, he really kind of he thought he was falling off, but like man, the dude had probably had so much money at one point and he lost it all and fame, and he just now it's just nothing. Now he's known for just kind of being a nobody. He suffered mentally from a series of mental health illnesses, I'd imagine. More than likely. Highly doubtful that he, you know, he probably was into a few things. I would imagine that assisted with that. People, fame, money can really do that to a young kid who just kind of came from nowhere. So I mean, yeah, it's an interesting, very interesting story. And look at the to come from that 1 billion views and become this huge phenomenon with the stupidest song imaginable. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? And look at some of the comments here. Who came here after he got sentenced to 30 years in prison? Most people, he has two hits. Yeah, the one he did on his cousin. That comment, Jesus Christ, that comment. He has right to remain Silentó. So it's all a big joke now, and this is how it always goes with them. Is that after they go to prison for a long time, they're just that's what happens to them. They're just kind of gone. So yeah, like you really gotta think about what was going through the fucker's head, and to literally screw up that badly in life is really a momentous thing. It's like that has to be a pretty incredible accomplishment. Uh, yeah. How is he down for that? Surely from here you know, I, I don't know how it works, but maybe he's buying mansions and houses, cars, and he has to sell them, and it just piles on to losing so much. But to go from 1 billion views on YouTube and millions of subscribers and millions of views and plays, albums sold, fuck. These people, man, are just such idiots. And Silentó, can you believe the stupidity of this kid? Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Look at the look on his face. He has the look on the face of someone who knows he fucked up hardcore in life. And yeah, he's not going to recover from this. To come from so much thought of, better than everyone else and all this money and all this fame. And to do what he did too, his own family, and he fucking does that. And like it's incredible. And rappers do this all the time. Is that they just can't seem to shake this ego. They just have this incredible ego, hateful ego, and they'll even, despite making millions and having thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars at their disposal, they'll still choose to do something someone who's homeless would do. You know, it's incredible, and it's a very interesting story. And that's the story of Silentó. Silentó, he got incredibly famous, and he fucking fucked it all up, and now he's done for. Because yeah, there's no preferential treatment for what he did. You have all the money and the fame in the world, you still get locked in the cage if you do that. So I mean, good riddance. Peace.